In 2020, Nvidia showed off RTX IO, a technology that, if we are being completely honest, can be summarized as Nvidia saying, the PS5 isn't that special, guys, we swear. Actually, if you go back to around the initial Nvidia Ampere reveal, it's kind of funny to see how big of a theme this was. Nvidia was clearly very annoyed by how hyped the consoles were. They, in fact, insisted that you should buy their over $1,000 RTX 3060 laptops that were totally 30% stronger than the consoles, except that those $1,000 laptops have repeatedly shown to probably be closer to 10 to 30% weaker than the consoles in most tests. And unfortunately, just like that RTX 3060 claim was bogus, and obviously was, teraflops do not equal gaming performance linearly, so too has RTX IO so far, almost 2 years later. Where the heck is RTX IO? Well, it's basically nowhere. As it turns out, RTX IO is really just Nvidia trying to brand Microsoft's direct storage tech as something they were doing that was new and special, but again, it's just not out right now. Nvidia made it sound like you'd be getting instant PS5 load times in 2021, but it still is yet to be seen in any real game. And based on what I am told, Nvidia is about to do a similar thing with Nvidia Streamline, something that was popping up in some headlines recently. Actually, if you go to an article on Hard OCP written by Kyle Bennett, he wrote something that really did pique my interest and send me down this rabbit hole. He basically stated from some of his sources that Streamline just isn't ready, and that Nvidia wants to make it look like they have an open source approach to rival AMD FSR, RSR, and Intel Xe supersampling, which it's funny that they say Xe supersampling comes from Intel, whereas the other things come from a third hardware vendor, nice diss at AMD Nvidia, to bring the best of open source upscaling performance programs to their own users. But when I've reached out to some Intel and AMD contacts, they aren't familiar with this at all. Nvidia seems to have cobbled together this thing that at this point has no evidence it's coming out anytime soon. This tech is, as far as I can report right now, nothing more than a PowerPoint slide. And I actually asked one source about the RTX IO situation and was told that indeed Nvidia is really worried about Xe supersampling and FSR 2.0, and that this situation really does seem comparable to what I suggested, RTX IO. You know, I've been testing the 6500 XT and a few other graphics cards you can kind of see behind me right now. And I finally, because, you know, I have an RTX 3070 in my system, now that I have a 6500 XT and some more AMD graphics cards around, I've been able to finally test FSR. And I've got to say that I see why NVIDIA is worried. I know I'm late to the party actually trying FSR, but it really is impressing me. Actually impressing me more than I expected at resolutions below 4K. You just got to go in with reasonable expectations about what it's capable of. And yeah, I think I can see why NVIDIA is worried. As I've discussed in a few recent podcasts, I do think RSR needs a lot of work to be a major selling point in its current state, but it still has immense potential as an offshoot of FSR 1.0 that's just really easy to implement and bolt on into any game from the driver level. Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to get an upgrade to FSR 2.0's quality. I think FSR 2.0 is just more intricate and requires more work directly from developers to implement, but it is way better than any other upscaling tech NVIDIA has that works through the drivers right now. And FSR 2.0 should match DLSS quality, and well, again, being harder to implement than FSR 1.0 should be far easier than DLSS. In other words, this PowerPoint thrown out there acting like NVIDIA Streamline is coming soon, much like RTX IO, I think this is all signaling that NVIDIA is really worried about FSR 2.0, about Xe supersampling, that they're about to lose one of their main selling points as being a distinguishing factor for their graphics cards. As I pointed out in the last podcast, yes, DLSS is outpacing FSR support right now. I think NVIDIA knows this may not happen in the next year, and that if it doesn't, they need to pretend they have some answer to RSR that looks better than RSR and looks better than the open source version of Xe supersampling that works on Intel cards. And I guess, yeah, to end this part of the video, I'm just telling you, I don't have any evidence it's coming anytime soon, and I don't really think it's going to do anything special that upgraded versions of RSR and Xe supersampling will do just as well before NVIDIA Streamline is really even perfected. So, yeah, that's what I had to say about this in this part of the video. It's not the only thing NVIDIA is worried about, people challenging DLSS. They're also clearly concerned about dropping prices because they have given, or they're about to give, the 3090 Ti an actual MSRP, unlike the launches of their last two cards, the 2060 12GB and the 3080 12GB. It seems like the 3090 Ti will get an MSRP. It has... Actually, I have a few more details to tell you guys about it before it's officially launched and what this all means for pricing on graphics cards over the summer. But first, an ad from a sponsor. All right, let's see what you did. Reese, that's not how addition works. Today's video is brought to you by a sponsor my dog Reese here could really benefit from using. Brilliant. Brilliant is an online interactive learning platform for learning mathematics, physics, and computer science subjects at your own pace. And now these aren't just boring lecture videos. These are fun, hands-on courses that have been tailored to keep you engaged while you're learning. And they have ability levels for all levels of knowledge and experience depending on the subject. So whether you're just brushing up on everyday mathematics or learning the fundamentals of computer science, Brilliant is for anyone who needs to brush up on old skills or even learn new ones for their career. And Brilliant is free to start and waiting for you. Join the millions of people already learning on Brilliant with a special offer just for Moore's Law is Dead fans. Head to the link on screen or in the description to get started for free with Brilliant's interactive lessons. The first 200 listeners will get 20% off an annual membership. Clicking on this link really does help the Moore's Law is Dead channel, and it costs you nothing. Get started for free with Brilliant today. In my Road to RDNA 3 and Lovelace video a couple weeks ago, I confirmed the March 29th launch date for the 3090 Ti that other people had already been leaking before that, and stated that the 3090 Ti, based on what I've been told, would be 7 to 11% stronger than the 3090, not just 5%, at least if we're comparing it to the 3090 Founders Edition. Obviously, there's AIB models of the 3090 that use 480 watts or more. I'm saying 350 watt standard 3090 to 450 watt standard 3090 Ti. This thing could get to 10% in plenty of games in 4K. That the 450 watt TDP is doing a lot of work there. And I'm told that that's correct to this day based on people testing the card right now. In fact, I'm also told some, I guess, good things about the 3090 Ti. That supposedly temperatures on the GDDR6X is fine. Vastly cooler than the 3090 that got way too hot on its memory chips, and that, well, these cards, the 3090 Ti cards, they're insanely huge, and they do consume a ton of energy. Like, I've heard if you overclock them, yeah, they can use like 500 watts on some of these models, or at least 480 watts or more, that they're not that loud, and they do bring more performance. I also learned probably the best thing I wanted to hear out of this launch that I suggested might not happen in that Road to RDNA 3 and Lovelace video, that these cards come with a $2,000 MSRP. Now, let me throw this summary up here. So the MSRP of the 3090 Ti, at least as of this recording, is planned to be $2,000, and that there actually supposedly will be a Founders Edition to be sold from Best Buy. But again, that's not going to be the street pricing of most models. I've been told that those street pricing, as we've already seen from leaked pricing lists from vendors, is about $2,500 to $4,000 for the first month. But that, of course, these could plummet over time. And, well, the samples actually clock insanely well. These are golden samples, fully enabled, above 2.1 gigahertz core clocks, above 22 gigabit per second GDDR6X is possible in overclocking. And all of this, well, again, yes, consuming a ton of energy, yes, being very big, and having near non-existent availability isn't that loud. And there aren't the stability problems, at least so far, that I was worried we would see. So I guess what I would say then about the 3090 Ti is it really is a harbinger of what we're probably going to see out of top Lovelace. It's not that loud. It keeps the card cool, and it is gigantic, but it works despite using upwards of around 500 watts. If they can pull that off with a 3090 Ti, I don't see why they won't pull that off with a 500 to 600 watt 4090 near the end of this year. And I also think that this card, the 3090 Ti, getting an MSRP, which again, let me remind you, I was told directly that they weren't sure if they'd release an MSRP, and AMD wasn't sure if they would give an MSRP on their RDNA 2 refresh cards. This card getting an MSRP tells me that yeah, these prices really are going to keep dropping over the summer. In fact, when I talk to some of my sources about what prices they're seeing at their stores, no one is any indication that the 3090 Ti's are going to be arriving anytime soon. That right now, the local shops are playing hot potato, is how he put it, with their current GPU stock, with some stores buckling and basically selling their cards at cost before other people, pissing off their competitors. Pissing off their competitors because, well, a lot of people bought up a lot of cards. You know, those, I really have not been lying to you when I told you that, like at Micro Centers and stuff, when you see a 3080 sell for $1,200, oftentimes they paid at least $1,000 for that 3080. And so if you see that drifting below $1,000 and 3070 Ti's drifting below $800, a lot of these cards are being sold for less than a $20 markup, and the store selling them at cost first just to try to get people in the store and make sure they aren't forced to offload everything below cost are pissing off, well, the stores across the street. In fact, when I talked to another source, this person here in the United States, he said that, look, some of the pictures that we've seen circulating online and forums and Twitter of like ridiculously lowly priced cards are probably fake, but that indeed the 3070 Ti that was often over $1,000 retailing a month ago is a lot of the times already down to around $700 at multiple Micro Centers. So no, they're not $500 like I've seen in some pictures, but this is becoming a $700 card already, and from what I'm told, AIBs aren't doing anything to prevent this, that AIBs have paper hands and are letting the prices fall as fast as they need to. And so, yeah, I can't promise exactly where prices will go, and I don't really expect everything to hit MSRP in a month or something, but I think it's obvious that things are just going to keep getting better and keep getting better in a world where we're going to have refreshed, stronger RDNA 2 cards dropping to compete with what Nvidia has out right now, and then followed by Intel's cards that I am told, as I recently leaked, Intel is willing to sell at or below cost to buy market share. So all of this is to say, I guess, some final shopping advice near the end of this video. If you need a new card, they're just going to keep getting cheaper over the next few months. Can't promise you how cheap, but they are going to keep getting cheaper for many factors, including increasing supply. I think, honestly, the amount of people willing to spend over MSRP, there was a finite number, and those people have all bought their cards already. And then all of these new launches coming out right around now from Nvidia, AMD, and Intel forcing more competition. I think that if you need a new card, get it only when you have to, because the prices are going to just keep getting better, crescendoing towards the Lovelace and RDNA 3 launch. That, yes, I believe the tiers in the RDNA 3 lineup will be more expensive than the previous tiers. Like the 7700 XT almost certainly costs more than the 6700 XT. I think it's also going to bring massively more performance for not double the price, though, and that it's going to have it happen that way because the previous gen, I think there's going to be a lot of stock around MSRP. And so, I don't know, for example, if the 7600 XT is Navi 33 and it is, yes, more expensive than Navi 23 cards, I also think it might be twice as powerful, around the performance of a 6900 XT in 1440p, and it might just be $400 to $450. That to me sounds like a good generation to get in on near the end of this year. Of course, I can't promise you will be able to easily, but yeah, just things to keep in the back of your mind. Yes, the 7600 XT may cost more than the 6600 XT and only have 8 gigabytes of RAM, like its predecessor did, but it also might be a 6900 XT in 1440p for the same price or lower than a 6700 XT. And I think that's something to get excited about. And I will have to leak that soon, but I'm not going to leak it in this video. You're just going to have to wait for that one. Make sure you ring the bell button after subscribing to the Moore's Law is Dead YouTube channel so you don't miss those upcoming leaks from this channel. And also, subscribe to Broken Silicon on your podcast app of choice. Give us a review. Consider supporting us on Patreon to get early ad-free access and exclusive access to podcasts only patrons get on the Patreon. Remember, we cannot do this without our patrons. So if you have an extra $2 or $4 a month, we really appreciate it. And I guess, as always, all that's left to say is if you made it this far, thank you for watching.